And so the past week saw the whole focus on Kenya, as the whole world focused on Kenya as it played host to the Global Entrepreneurship Summit 2015. But the best part of U.S. President Obama's visit was a light moment he had while at State House for dinner, where he had a chance to dance alongside. Do we say it was a chance, or Sauti Sol had a chance to dance alongside President Barack Obama? But anyway, he joined the fun at State House. Take a look. And so what do we call that? The groovy side of U.S. President Barack Obama. If you have any videos at all that you think are worth sharing here on Africa Speaks, just send us an email. africaspeaks@standardmedia.co.ke, or you can tag us in them, my Twitter handle @JoyDorinBira or at KTN News, and we'll be able to share them, share the fun with you as well. Now, the Roman Catholic bishops in Kenya have urged citizens to boycott a mass polio vaccination campaign unless the safety of the vaccine has been confirmed through scientific tests. And the oral vaccination campaign by the World Health Organization and UNICEF is scheduled to begin today, the 1st of August, that is in Kenya. And ahead of the campaign's launch, the bishops have questioned the safety of the vaccines, saying that the manufacturer failed to provide requested information, and the government disregarded the bishops' request for tests. Their concerns heightened after a recent unrelated incident in which about 30 children who received an injection of an anti-malarial drug in a dispensary in western Kenya appeared to be paralyzed. Now, those children have been brought to Nairobi for further testing and treatment. Take a look.
At Nairobi Hospital are these two brothers next to their mother, who has accompanied them to seek treatment. The two are among the 28 who are paralyzed after receiving an injection in a local dispensary in Busia County before being transferred to Nairobi today.
Those 28 children, we have done initial assessment, and the indications are that 5 of them have what we might call mild, they are affected mildly. Then 8 of them, they are moderate, and 15 of them severe.
We found the county had put a team in place that was working with 23 children who had come up at that point, and they were struggling a bit with equipment.
Pamela Omekede was among the families affected, and sitting with her son, who is said to have been injected in January this year. She narrates how the injection has left her son paralyzed.
Tarehe 6 Januari 2015 nilichukua mtoto kwa Chile City akiwa anaumia malaria, akiwa anajisikia mwili joto na anakohoa. Nilipochukua kwa daktari akajaribu, akatoa dawa, akasema hii mtoto itakana adunge shindano.
It is at this point, after receiving the injection, she noticed something was wrong.
Alipodunga shindano mtoto hakuwa hata nalala, alikuwa mtoto tu amesimamishwa. Akadunga mtoto hivi nikasema, daktari, umedunga mtoto hii shindano akisimama sasa itakuaje? Hivyo tu mtoto mguu kaanguka, hadi 7 minutes mtoto akaanza tu mguu hawezi kutembea, nikabeba mtoto nje.
This was the beginning of her son's troubles. When she decided to go back to the doctor, she was surprised at what she was told.
Daktari, mtoto imeharibika, nitafanya namna gani? Mguu umekataa kutembea, unisaidie. Daktari akanieleza, wewe mama, kichwa yako imelewa. Akanitupia kitabu yangu. Kaniambia, enda kwa physiotherapy. Nikasema nikarudisha, daktari, nitaenda physiotherapy, mtoto hajavunjika, nitaenda kufanya nini na nitaenda kusema nini? Wazangu akasema, wewe usirudishie daktari, jaribu tu enda polepole, enda kwa physiotherapy.
She tells me at this point she started losing hope. All she could do was to follow doctor's instructions. The situation worsened until the children were finally brought to Nairobi.
Sai mtoto sio afadhali, naona mguu inaendelea kudimia, na akikunja mguu naona mshipa inakunjana.
Like the other 27 families, Pamela is now calling on the government to act on this matter.
Sasa hii mimi nataka haki ya mtoto, nataka uponyaji kwa mtoto.
Obviously, if there was negligence, somebody could even sue for that. But that's not something which we can speculate at this point in time. I think we should like to wait until we have the entire investigation process completed. If it was criminal negligence, then somebody could sue the county government of Busia.
For this little child, this is his new temporary home, as the doctors embark on treating them, hoping that they will get well soon and be discharged from the hospital.
And so that controversy has left mixed reactions amongst Kenyans. Some people think vaccination is the right thing to do, especially if we're immunizing against polio. And if we want to kick polio out of Kenya, the right thing to do is take our children get this vaccination. And joining me now to further shed light on this issue is the National Director and CEO, the Association for the Physically Disabled of Kenya, Gideon Muga. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jay.
First, what do you think of the Roman Catholic Church reservation in regard to the polio vaccination?
Thank you very much for me having time to come to the studio.
Yes.
I think the church, you know, all of us belong to the church, and church plays a bigger role and on the issues, and also the Catholic Church is also providing medical services in their institutions.
Right.
And therefore, if there is any issue, they are basically they are accepted to discuss. But as the association, who has been very much in front on managing children who suffered polio, we basically know the intent and the cost it can affect on the children. And therefore, the issue of the preventable diseases should be the first and foremost issue to be discussed. And one of the issues which we need to address is, do we leave our children suffer polio, or do we prevent our children from suffering from polio? As it is in our constitution, it's the right of children to get services on the health issues.
Right.
And therefore, even if the church is having a reserved idea of the issue of polio vaccine, I think that one should be addressed by the research team of the WHO, because for sure, all health issues all over the world is being controlled, and I don't think there is any other higher standard or quality which are being tested without WHO consent.
But the same Catholic Church also had reservations in regard to administering the tetanus vaccination in pregnant women, because they said that it made them infertile. What are your thoughts on that?
As it is, one thing we should accept and know, that we need to prevent any disease. And therefore, we need not to go into issues on why are we doing it. If this is the issue, like the scientific component of either the vaccine is laced by something which can prevent women from giving birth, that should be decided and discussed into details, and research be well and done. But for us in the civil society, we basically assist the government on creating awareness and again improving to prevent the diseases which can cause, especially for us, disabilities, because it is costly to manage and to support the intervention on disability, but it is cheaper to do the prevention of the disability. So all cases, in fact, for children, they are very susceptible, and therefore if immunization is not done, we are exposing our children to more vulnerable diseases, which will end up causing disability to the children, and therefore we are going to grow with a community with more people with disability, and therefore the cost of managing them will affect the economy of our country. So for us as an organization, and Save the Children, and the World Vision, who are focused on development issues, on focusing on the rights of the children and management of the children, we basically urge the church to discuss the whole thing in a harmonious way with the government so that not to affect the good gains we are trying to do.
Right.
And for it, as Kenyans, we are now a middle class. We need not to have polio. We need to eradicate polio. And that is one of the issues. But we know our borders are porous. In fact, Somalia here, we have Ethiopia here. We have Sudan, refugees coming in. And therefore, we are mixing with these people. So what do? We basically scale up and say, let us basically immunize our children against non-communicable diseases as a right for the children.
Right.
And
are there any statistics whatsoever that indicate that these are the many number of children who have been disabled because they didn't take or they weren't vaccinated, or maybe their vaccination was poorly administered? Do we have numbers in regard to that?
I think that one should be discussed by the Minister of Health, the Health Information System.
But as your association?
As our association, we have, basically we have what we call our operational data, because our association was established some way back in 1958. And the reason why it came into being is because of the polio issue. That time, the polio was a menace in our country. And therefore, the organization was formed to basically partner to support the prevention of polio. And in fact, we started what we call the polio clinics, one in Nairobi and one in Mombasa. And this is why we are saying we have seen the children who suffered from polio. Some of them are my staff. In fact, if you visit my office, you will find the adults now who suffered from polio. They are now workers, and we know it took us time to rehabilitate them, to make them to be, and this all issue affects the family. A child having polio in a family is already a problem for the family.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate time taken to come shed light on this. The polio vaccination campaign starts today in Kenya, and the Catholic Church insists that tests should be done before, during, and after the campaign, which the Ministry of Health thinks this is an unstoppable campaign. Children must be vaccinated for the betterment of their health. Polio is a highly infectious disease caused by a virus, and it invades the nervous system and can cause irreversible paralysis in a matter of hours. And also one thing we need to keep in mind is that it can strike at any age, but mainly affects children under the age of 5. So are you or are you not going to vaccinate your children? That is a question that I think only you can be able to answer. But for the betterment and understanding of the public, I think it's a good thing that you go vaccinate your child. Now, after years of civil war with Islamist rebels, the Somali government has tried as much as possible to rebuild the country. And inside Somalia, there are both positive and negative stories to tell. But just take a look at what the International Monetary Fund thinks of Somalia.
The economy of Somalia has been shaped and defined by conflict, making it heavily dependent on aid and remittances. According to World Bank's 2012 Human Development Report, Somalia's per capita GDP is estimated at $284, against a sub-Saharan Africa average of $1,300, with 73% of its population living below the poverty line. But with a sense of stability in the country, experts like the IMF are now focusing on creating an economic face for the country, especially through data generation.
We were confronted with a situation that we had no data and literally no statistics that we could rely on to prepare the normal quantitative analysis and assessment of economic conditions, including financial conditions in the country. So we, over the course of the last 2 years, we assist the Somalis in a number of areas, including central bank governance, governance also in the fiscal area, and in terms of preparing the first balance sheet of the central bank.
Somalia's economic mainstay is livestock production, and export of livestock products and meat generates 80% of foreign currency. But the country lacks a formal commercial banking sector, and the economy is highly unregulated.
Medium-term recommendations that are critically important for Somalia to be able to sustain its growth over the medium term, in particular, building proper economic and financial institutions, including the central bank and the Ministry of Finance. We're dealing with issues of proper management of natural resources and having a proper framework for remittance to continue to flow to Somalia.
In its first review of Somalia's economy in a generation, IMF now says that the Horn of Africa nation has made significant progress since it resumed associations with the international community. In 2014, the economy expanded by 3.7% and is projected to grow by 2.7% in this year.
According to the UNDP, about 73% of the Somali population lives below the poverty line of $2 a day. That said, economic conditions have recovered significantly since the end of the Civil War, and in particular, in 2014, GDP is estimated to have grown by about 4%. Inflation remained low at about 1%.
IMF, however, observes that growth in this country will remain inadequate and imbalanced in the short term. The economy will also have to address insecurity, weak institutions, lack of data, and poorly developed governing framework, especially in the financial sector.
All right, and just like we mentioned, there's positive and there's negative that's still coming out of Somalia as the country seeks to rebuild itself. And just last Sunday, we did see 13 people who died after Al-Shabaab suicide bombed Jazeera Hotel in Mogadishu. And joining us now is a journalist who works with Gupjog FM in Mogadishu to talk more about that attack and also how Somalia is rebuilding itself. Thank you so much for joining us, Ahmed Nasir Bashir. It's such an honor having you speak to us about the current status of Somalia. What would you say is the situation right now after the attack?
Thank you, Joyce, for having me online, although the line is very poor.
Right, go ahead.
Although your line is very poor, I can't hear you your questions, but I think you are asking me something regarding the Al Jazeera Hotel.
Ahmed, can you hear me?
Joyce, this is recurrent event in the country, and you remember Al-Shabaab has been driven out of Mogadishu in 2010. It has been 5 years since, but they repeatedly attacked government installations and also hotels throughout the country, and they managed to attack the three most key points in the country, like the presidency, like the parliament, and like the judiciary. They all attacked, and that shows their ability to carry out such attacks. But there are other underlying factors that determine the insecurity in the government. I can tell you the security forces have not been based for the past 5 or 4 months, and they only been based for the period of 1 month.
Yes. And let me just get it from you. If you can hear me, Ahmed, I would like to know from you. You know, Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the attack, but what exactly was their motive, knowing that Jazeera Hotel hosts quite a number of embassies?
This has a separate significance, given the importance of Al Jazeera Hotel. It houses several foreign embassies, and you remember Al-Shabaab wants to draw the attention of the world, and that's why they are attacking such a higher profile hotels and other installations, and they want to draw the attention of the world. That's their target, and they want to even put the moral sector.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ahmed. We do appreciate time taken to speak to us in that regard, and what the aftermath of the attack now is. The hotel is also seen as one of the most diplomatic in Somalia. That it hosts a number of embassies makes it even more respectful. But if that hotel could be attacked, what does that say about Somalia? You can let us know what you think about that. But still to come, we have an interesting segment. I've got a cartoonist from the Standard Group who is going to be telling us the inspiration behind this week's cartoon, so do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Africa Speaks. Now, this is a segment that we are hoping to have at least on every edition of Africa Speaks. And joining me will be, from today henceforth, Gams. If you find him on Twitter, his Twitter handle is @Gams. But Eric Ngamao is the cartoonist from the Standard Group. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You always have very interesting cartoons that you always put out for us. And these ones seem to have been inspired by the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. Tell me about this one to start with.
Okay, thank you very much, Jay, for having me. This was, the inspiration was behind the jazz, as you said, the coming of Obama and all the attention in our country.
Right.
But one thing that was, they were in agreement, Uhuru, our president, and Obama,
Yes.
is that we are truly a blessed country, and the vibrant of a culture, culture ready for business. But as soon as he left, we were back to our usual, the tribal cocoons.
And so the enemy within is what? Corruption?
And ethnicity.
Ah, there you go. Well, that does paint the picture for us here. If we could probably look at the next one also quite an interesting one. Someone tell Obama this is Africa. What was this about?
This was our African leaders and their love for clinging on to power. This is when Obama commented about the term limits, them leaving. You can see that's Bob.
This is interesting. This is Uncle Bob.
Yes.
This right here is the man with 7 corners.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. This is President Museveni of Uganda. And right here, we seem to have the youngest one of them all.
Nkurunziza.
And right here, President Paul Kagame. And they all seem to be in line. How many years here on this side? 30 years.
30
and counting.
30 and counting.
Yes. And right here, in fact, since 1980, he's been president. Since 1986, he's been president. Since 2005, he's been president, and Paul Kagame is seeking, well, another term, per se, though not verbally directly, but his members of parliament, RPF party as well, did amend the constitution to allow him run for yet another 7-year term. So there we go. Do we have any more? Yeah? Yes, here we go. President Barack Obama. And the hashtag, someone tell the world, Hakuna Matata.
Yes.
To use the real words.
Yes.
And that's the GES. Of course, Kenya is the hotbed of vibrance, just like President Uhuru Kenyatta did mention. And, well, this is Nairobi.
Yes.
Karibuni.
And that
Karibuni,
UN
Kenya,
is the United Nations, which is in our country.
Which is here, yes. The headquarters are here. Interesting. And I hope that next week we can actually have you here on the show. So you can draw something while we're still here, and then by the end of the show, we can have you, display it right here. Well, now, there is a segment that we've also introduced on the show called Africa Wise, and we did ask some interesting questions. Michelle was able to walk along the streets of Nairobi and find out what Kenyans know about Africa. Take a look.
Hello and welcome to another segment of Africa Wise. As usual, I have 3 questions to ask the people of Nairobi just to see how much they know about the continent. We'll be asking them which are the 5 big wild animals, name any 3 African presidents who've overstayed in power, and which 3 African presidents have stayed in power beyond their presidential terms. Let's see what they have to say.
First big wild animals, an elephant, good. No. Big is just a lion, a buffalo, pass.
Now, name any 3 African presidents who've overstayed in power.
Who overstayed in power? There is Museveni of Uganda. Then there is what was that Kenyan guy? He's Moi, Gaddafi. Yeah.
5 wild big animals: elephant, lion, giraffe, buffalo. Is it one of it? Ningapi hizo? One more. A rhino.
Now, name 3 African presidents who've overstayed in power.
Kuna Museveni. There is this one for Wazimbabwe ameka sana. I don't know. Alafu huyu mwenye alioa huyu Zuma Jaka, sindo? I don't know. Zuma wa South Africa, pana Jaka wa Zimbabwe, Uganda, hata Ethiopia. I don't know. Yes.
Now, 3 presidents who've stayed in power beyond their presidential terms.
Museveni. Sijui mwingine.
Which are the 5 big wild animals?
Elephant, lion, cheetah, buffalo, giraffe.
Now, name 3 African presidents who've overstayed in power.
Mugabe, Museveni, and what was the other one? Gaddafi, but he was out.
Right. Now, name 3 African presidents who've overstayed in power beyond their presidential terms.
Still sitting presidents, or Moi, and Museveni, and Mugabe.
And that's a wrap up for today. My name is Michelle Ngele. See you next week, same time, same place.
All right, there we go now. A lot of people don't seem to understand how many presidents have overstayed their due in power. But Gams, can you help us?
Yep.
3 presidents who have overstayed their terms.
There's Mugabe.
What we just had here, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. There is Mugabe of Zimbabwe. There is President Museveni of Uganda. We have Nkurunziza has overstayed his term, and we also have Eduardo Santos of Angola. He's been president like forever, I think even before Gams was born. So Gams, what do you think you're going to have for us next week? What do you anticipate for next week, if I'm going to allow you to predict the future?
Okay. Of course, more and more political cartoons. Our leaders, African so-called dictators, not per se. Of course, we'll have more on them, and we'll go sporty. We'll have a review of the Sekafa.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. I hope that we could have it, but I think because we're out of time, probably we can review it on the next show, yeah?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Always an honor having you here as well. Cartoonists in Kenya.
Thank you,
we're
my pleasure.
able as well to get a platform to showcase their talent during President Barack Obama's visit. How was that for you?
It was nice.
Yeah.
It was a very good opening for us, and to get the people to appreciate our work.
Okay,
Very
interesting.
nice.
And we're going to keep appreciating his work on Africa Speaks. And before we even wind up, usually we have music from around the African continent that at least we try to play so you can get to know which other African artists have good music aside from the ones you usually watch on a daily basis. And this one is coming in from Sami Yusuf, a South African artist. He sang this song particularly for countries that are hunger-stricken. that winds up today's edition of Africa Speaks. Do join me again for yet another edition. My name is Joy Doreen Bira, and Eric Gamal, or at Gams on Twitter. He's the cartoonist from Standard Group. Thank you all for watching.
እንቆቅልህ
ምን አውቅልሽ
አንድ ሺህ መንታ መልኩም ያምታታ
አንድ ሺህ መንታ
መልኩም